Hey, what's up, everybody? Pat here. Thank you for joining me in episode 23 of SPI TV. As you can see behind me, I got a lot of books, and I get a lot of books because I love to read books. Books are really important. It's kind of like a way for you to kind of absorb what someone's experienced in their whole life and the knowledge that they have in one full swoop, one full read. And I love books, and I wanted to share with you some of my favorite books, not just in the book club that I have, which you can find at patsbookclub.com, where every month I review a new book and you get an email about that. But I'm actually going to do this for the first time here on SPI TV. So every video here this month, I'm going to show you a new book, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit, and we're going to do a little kind of book review and maybe talk about it in the comments and stuff. So here we go. We're going to go right into the first book here in episode 23 of SPI TV. For this episode, I wanted to talk about a book that I've talked about a lot of times in the past, both on Periscope and on the blog, The One Thing by Gary Kellar and Jay Papasan. So the question I have for you is, what is your one thing? Now, what do I mean by this one thing? Well, we all know, especially us entrepreneurs, that we try to do too many things at once, and we cannot possibly do them all at the same time. Now, there is no such thing as multitasking, but even when you switch between one and another, even though you're focusing on one at a time, if you don't complete that thing, it's never going to happen. You're not going to get any results. And this book I actually listened to most of my books, but I didn't print this out. I've actually bought this one, and I put it right next to my computer to remind me every single day that I go into my office that I have to focus on that next one task and nothing else matters. And that's really hard to do these days because we're being bombarded with attention-grabbing social media, messages, notifications, and it can be very difficult. But this book is great because it teaches us just the consequences of what happens when you actually don't focus on one thing, and also the possibilities of what can happen if you do. So I'm not going to cover the whole book here. I want you to read it if it's something that you feel you would enjoy, and obviously it's helped me a lot. I've talked about it so many times. But one of the most important messages in the book is you need to identify what that next one thing is that you need to do and focus your undivided attention on that. Now, one trick I want to teach you is something called just-in-time learning. One of the things that, especially for those of us who are watching videos like this or listening to podcast episodes or reading blog posts, is that there's a lot of great content out there that is being produced by so many amazing people that it can really distract us from the work that we need to do. And you may know that next thing that you need to do, but then you get what they call squirrel syndrome or bright light syndrome. You see this new thing that somebody else is talking about that's working really well for them that might not have to do with your next task, but you get really excited about it. And we entrepreneurs, we are like dogs who are in a squirrel-ridden forest where there's just things going on everywhere and we can never focus, right? Like, I'm this way too. But what has really helped me is to stop so much learning and implement more. And so anything that I learn, if it doesn't have anything to do with that next task on my priority list, then it is not deserving of my attention right now. Now, that doesn't mean you should totally get away with it or leave it be forever. You should actually document and catalog those things for later. For example, a lot of people have talked about the power of Pinterest, for example. And I know Pinterest is a powerful tool, but I don't use it right now. I don't need it. And therefore, all the information that's coming into me through social media channels, through recommendations from other people in my mastermind groups, I put those recommendations into an Evernote folder marked Pinterest so that when the time is right and I'm ready for Pinterest, I can go in there and all those things are ready there for me. This is what I like to call, again, just-in-time learning. I picked this up from Jeremy over at internetbusinessmastery.com. And it's been truly a game changer. There's a lot of things that distract us, but we don't even realize how much learning is distracting us. Learn about the things that are going to help you with that next task. If they aren't involved with that, save it for later. Okay, now in terms of figuring out what you should do next, it's tough because we find something that we can do, something that might seem a little easy to do, or it's something that's been on our plate for a while, but is that necessarily the thing we should do first? How do you know? Well, there's a lot of tactics and strategies that Jay and Gary go through in the book to help you figure out what that top priority is. But it's really important that we spend time to do that. Don't just go to that next thing that you think might be that thing that you have to do. Figure out what that thing is and then make sure you spend, again, your undivided attention on that. And the reason this is so important is because when you figure out that perfect first thing to do, no matter how little it is, it just has this domino effect, which is what they call it. And I don't know if you know this, but a domino, like the dominoes that can knock over one after another, I think a record was set not too long ago where somebody had knocked over 9 million of them, which is insane. I don't know who would spend the time to put up 9 million dominoes. But the thing is, you imagine somebody just tapping that first domino and then 9 million dominoes, that many joules of energy being expended because of just that one little correct tap right there in the beginning. So your job is to find out what that first domino is, because when you work on that, it's going to affect everything else you do ahead of that. Now, the thing is, a domino could actually knock over another domino that's 1.5 times its size. So if you were actually to do this and sequentially place a domino that's 1.5 times the size of the one previous to it, by the time you get to the 73rd domino, just because of math, you'll knock over a domino that touches the earth and touches the moon. It is that long. And with that little tap of a 2-inch domino, you're going to knock over that domino that is as tall as the moon and probably crush a whole lot of people. And so this is just an example, but I'm not saying you should do that or try to do that, or even if that's possible, but you know what I mean. Figure out what that first domino is. And that's going to take a little bit of research for you to figure out, okay, where do you want to go? And one of the big things that Jay and Gary talk about is taking those big goals and breaking them down. And then again, just narrowing your focus to that little one next task that you have to do. No matter how little it is, it's just the next task. And again, everything you're learning about, everything you're doing, everybody you're maybe talking to is related to that next task. Okay, so I could talk about this book for a lot of minutes, maybe not hours, but no. I love this book. It's great. It has a lot of great content. And the other big thing I picked up about this one thing is this thing called time blocking. That was a lot of things there. I shouldn't do that, but anyway, we'll keep going. So this thing called time blocking, and that is essentially with the tasks that you have to do, setting time aside to specifically do those tasks, whether they're repetitive tasks like answering emails or things like that, or whatever it is the next task is in your priority list to help you reach your goal. You need to set aside time for that, time blocking. Now, I know a lot of us do this in theory, but we actually don't practice it. We let things get in the way. And the trick is you need to honor that time that you say you're going to do something, and you just need to be very diligent and do it. And I've been very, very conscious about myself, setting myself time to do certain things. And when I kind of subconsciously even make excuses to not do those things. But as my buddy Chris Ducker says, if you don't schedule it, it never gets done. That's part one. But even if you schedule it, it might not get done because things get in the way. Honor that time block that you have for that certain task, and you're going to see your productivity levels skyrocket. And if you can focus on that next thing, the domino effect is going to take into place, and you're going to see results much faster than you ever have before. So this last thing I want to talk about, these are the 4 thieves of productivity, things that you must avoid at all costs. Number 1, the inability to say no. Now, we're entrepreneurs. We love opportunities, and saying no is one of the hardest things to do. Now, recently, I've been very good at saying no, and I've noticed that I've been able to survive, for one. You might think that you might be losing out on opportunities, but a lot of times those opportunities come back at you later. And again, you need to focus on that next thing and be conscious about when you are actually sabotaging yourself. But you got to say no sometimes. And the thing is, when you say no, you're actually opening up time for something else. And in the reverse, when you say yes to something, it's taking time away. It's actually you saying no to something else that likely you should be doing. Number 2, Gary and Jay talk about the fear of chaos. You should avoid the fear of chaos. You should know that when you are trying to reach your goals, things are going to mess up. You're going to screw up. Things are going to go and wreak havoc on things. And even though, you do your best to plan ahead of time, things aren't going to work out the way that you want it to. That happens, and that's okay. That's a part of the process, and part of the process of becoming an entrepreneur is figuring out how to solve problems in the midst of all that fear. And the best ones to do that are the ones that are going to succeed. So just know that that fear and that chaos is actually going to come and try and knock you down. Don't fear it. Just know it's there and just work your way around it. Number 3, and this one's really interesting that they put this in this book, because this is something that I talk about all the time when I talk about productivity. When somebody asks me, what's one of your top productivity tips, I talk about health and exercise. And then fear number 3 here is actually, or the thing you have to avoid at all costs is poor health habits. So I'm not going to go too much into this, but you are the body that does the work that you want to do, and the better your health is, the better your output will be. And number 4, the number 4 thing you have to avoid is an environment that does not support your goals. And by environment, I mean, a location perhaps, but even more so, the people around you. You need to surround yourself with people who are going to lift you higher and support you. And this is why I talk about mastermind groups. We did a whole month about mastermind groups here on SPI TV a while back. You can find it in the archives. You need to put yourself in the right mindset by putting yourself in the right environment to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. And then finally, to let you go, again, I recommend you pick this up. You can find it at smartpassiveincome.com/theonething. That is an affiliate link. So again, I want to thank Jay Papasan and Gary Kellar, both who I've spoken to on social media before, once on a webinar with Jay. Great people, great authors. This is an amazing book that has changed a lot of people's lives, including my own. So I recommend that you check it out. Again, The One Thing. You can find it at smartpassiveincome.com/theonething. And also, if you want to join my book club, it's totally free. Go to patsbookclub.com. You can sign up to that email list. Every month I send out an email. I also send out exclusive deals. A lot of times people send me books and coupon codes and things ahead of time when people are coming out with new books, and I share all that with you as much as possible. So again, you can check out my book club at patsbookclub.com. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next episode of SPI TV, where we talk about another book here in the month of September 2015. Cheers.